Namaste. The self is the life principle within us. It enlivens the ego, the intellect, the mind, and the senses. We then make use of these equipments to think and do our work. But our minds do things that satisfy the intellect, the mind, and the senses. This is selfishness. But when we try to satisfy the needs of the life principle within us, the self, the things become different because we are then aiming at satisfying universal goals or global needs. Our goals become higher. These goals are the results of our motivations for the joys of the self. One of the most powerful motivations that are set on higher goals is the joy for engaging in our duties. This is what we will see in detail in this module. There are three types of work in general. You can classify any work into three types. Selfish actions is one of them, focusing on me, myself, and I, and becoming selfish. The next is, prohibited actions that are illegal and blasphemous, like so many things that we generally tend to get involved in. Theft, vandalism, encroachment, immoral acts, con artists, etc. All those things are prohibited actions. The third are the duties that we are supposed to do, and duties are in general also termed selfless. We will now look at the various types of duties that we generally encounter. So because we are dealing with this topic on duties, we will look at that in detail. There are regular and daily duties like, keeping personal hygiene, doing household chores, and all those things are part of our regular duties, and we should not shirk away from doing all those. The next is life stage responsibilities. Every one of us in our life during different stages like childhood, youth, as a student, as a family member, as the head of a family, head of an organization, as a staff member. In each of these phases, we have certain responsibilities, duties and responsibilities that we should be doing. Then meeting job requirements, at the workplace, meeting the requirements of your particular position. Even not only at workplaces, but even at home, we have certain job requirements in terms of, as a child, as a student, as a father, as a mother. And these particular positions require you to do certain jobs, and meeting those is duty. The other one, next one, is abiding by laws of the land. That is basically, civic laws, government guidelines, even, abiding by the constitution of the land, etc., are part of duties that every citizen should be following. In society, man is a social animal. So as a social animal, when he is living in society, he needs to comply by certain norms. Aligning yourself with those norms is definitely your duty. Otherwise, you are not a social being. Similarly, in organizations where we work, we need to be, knowledgeable, or we should be understanding what the organizational goals are and etiquettes are, etc., and then be aligned with those goals. It is called as organizational savviness. There are certain traditions in certain organizations which you need to follow. Just because of your whims and fancies, you cannot, thwart those rules and go by your interests. Helping others, being of service to the society, the lesser privileged, etc., are, as a human being, your duty. Supporting the environment, the lesser privileged, or not only the lesser privileged, but even the environment and the non-living beings. It is very important. We are actually suffering a lot of such issues in the current world. We are going through a very difficult environment because of that. And then there are occasional or periodic duties that come by as part of your some family responsibilities, as in emergencies or meeting with calamities, family functions, and such other opportunities or such other occasions. You will need to you will need to do certain things which is part of your duty. Social obligations are other things. Is a sense of being of social service, networking with people and family members and friends and society leaders, etc. As well as there are certain etiquettes in dealing with other people. So you need to be obliged to follow those guidelines. That is also part of your duty. So, if you look at the supreme motivations that we had looked at previously, you will see that the topmost priority is for the joys of carrying out your duties. And therefore, we need to understand some of the characteristics of these duties. So let us now look at the characteristics of these several kinds of duties that we mentioned previously. Let us look at these characteristics. Duties come unasked. Nobody will ask you to do your duty. You should understand your responsibilities and then be ready to do those. Of course, there are situations where people might remind you about your duties, but in general, all the duties that we are supposed to perform comes to us without we asking for it. It is life stage and organizational requirements, social requirements, like all of these come unasked. Some duties are legally bound. There are some duties that come legally, whose ignorance is not an excuse for avoiding it. Abiding by traffic laws, for example, is something that you cannot say that you did not know it. Duties generally are thankless. Nobody is going to thank you for carrying out your duties. And it definitely should not be based on rewards and recognitions. And non-execution of your duties could be reprimanded or even punished sometimes. Duties carry no special reward. Duties are expected of each. A student must go to school. A soldier in the war front, he has certain work to do. Firefighter fighting the spread of fire, etc. In some rare instances, rewards could also be given. For example, exemplary service in the war front, gains for you some medals and recognitions. Those are not the general trend. In general, duties have no special reward. Duties increase with age and position. As we grow old and mature, and as we grow in social stature as well as in organization, in position, etc., duties also increase. Responsibilities as well as expectations from you would also increase. So that's all about the duties. I hope you have enjoyed this under the hood look at duties. So in the next module on Foundation Gita Intelligence, we will look at different aspects of karma yoga, or different bhavas.